DBE fam, I'm so excited for today's episode. I don't think I've ever started an episode and not said that, but that's because I just am obsessed with podcasting and interviewing the coolest people on the planet. So today we've got the one and only Katherine Beck here, who is a former actor turned online entrepreneur. She actually moved from Hollywood to Sydney, Australia, to follow the love of her career. And in Sydney, her voiceover career really started to take over. And she's been the voice of many different brands, animated shows, radio, audiobooks, and more. She's been the host of a #1 globally ranked podcast and is the founder of Command the Stage. And I've gotten to watch Katherine in action live, actually coach people on speaking on stage through contests that they were running. And 2 years in a row, her people that she coached actually ended up winning the contest that they were in. So I'm so honored to have you on the show today.
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and all the way from Sydney, which has such a special place in my heart. I just asked when we were off air, you moved 19 years ago. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I
Do
know.
you miss the States?
I do. And thank
Yeah,
goodness I get a chance to travel back for sure. But for anyone that's been in Australia, you know how magical of a
it's
place it
incredible.
is. It's incredible. So I'm very fortunate to live here and I'm very fortunate to be able to travel back to the US.
It's so cool. Side note, I was on a podcast a while back, a huge podcast. And at the end, the gentleman had asked me something about like, where's my favorite place I've ever traveled in the world or something like that. And I said Australia because I lived there for 9 months. So I have like roots and I had such an experience there. And he kind of like scoffed at it and was like, really? Like of all the places, because it's like English speaking and it's so similar to the US. And he was like, you've been to all these other cool countries and like, that's your favorite. And I actually was doubting myself off air, like after the episode for like weeks. I couldn't sleep because I'm like, did I not say like the coolest place? But no, it stand firm in my decision. Australia was like one of the most magical places I've ever been to. So yeah, I'm so envious. I have a healthy envy that you're there.
Well, come back and visit.
Yeah, I know. Got to get that flight on. All right, tell us a little bit about your business today, what it is that you do and who you help exactly in your words.
Yeah. So fascinating that you say that because I am also a fellow pivoter, as you are, and perhaps why I was drawn to you. So I help experts command the stage. Anyone who's got a message in their heart and wants to share it in a bigger way, that's where I come into play. So I really help you take your message and refine it and send it off onto many different stages, live, virtual podcasts just like this so that you can create a bigger impact in the world.
Yeah, I love it. As someone who had like what 30 years experience as a voiceover actor or artist, I should say, do you think that people just have it or they don't have it? Like, can the voice and the commanding of the stage be taught?
100%. It's a skill like anything else. You can learn it. When we're little, we learn how to talk, and it's just a matter of getting better at the act of that skill. I grew up incredibly shy and didn't like to speak in front of big groups, but the first time I stepped onto a stage, I think I was probably about 10 years old. I felt like I was home. And it was the first time that I really felt um, truly happy and at peace. And it was a place that I always wanted to come back to. And it was where I found my voice, was on a stage. And so I, for myself, saw the transformation of, oh, it doesn't matter who you are. It's that connection and that energy in the moment that happens that anyone can duplicate. But, because I was so shy, I took classes in voice and movement and, text analysis, learning how to communicate, all these different sort of things, improvisation, voiceover technique. And all of that taught me the skill of being able to be good at public speaking and interacting with others and being able to see people receive your message and then take action, to be inspired to take action through your voice has so much power that once you tap into it, you will see what the great motivational speakers do, what, seven-figure entrepreneurs do, what Oprah does, right? These are people who know how to utilize that tool, which is their
Yeah.
voice, and you can as well.
Yeah. When you say find your voice, because I feel like people say this all the time, I finally found my voice you said on stage, I found my voice. What exactly do you mean? Are you talking about pitch and tonality? Are you talking about authenticity, or is it sort
Yeah.
of all encompassing?
It's authenticity.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes when we get on a stage i- in front of a microphone, in front of a camera or your phone, and it's like, here you go, say something, it can be really daunting. And so usually what happens is subconsciously we form like this invisible bubble around us as a
Yeah.
form of protection so that we don't get hurt. But then from the receiving end, from your audience, they don't really get a chance to fully see who you are. And you also don't allow yourself to be received authentically as you are. And so finding your voice is literally getting in touch with really who you are and being okay with expressing that, allowing people to see your vulnerability, your
Yeah.
strengths, and your weaknesses. And that's when it starts to feel really good
Yeah.
when you communicate.
I feel like we as humans can kind of sniff out when somebody is not necessarily in their voice or in their authentic self, but we don't always know why. Maybe you do, but we don't always know why. And there's often this feeling of like, I don't know, something's just a little off, or I can't really stand listening to him or to her. I swipe past their stuff. Something just feels a little off. But for me, I've been in this industry for so long. I'm very aware of certain things where I'm like, that's not like actually how you talk, the tonality or the speed or the breathiness. Like when you're pitching something or you're selling something, sometimes people sound different. I don't know if you've noticed that at all.
Totally. It's like the second you press record, they change.
Yeah.
They're not themselves anymore. Maybe can tell about 6 seconds before somebody's going to swipe off, onto the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's so crucial to understand your tool, which is your voice and also your physical presence, because in today's world, we just cannot afford to, half-ass it or to push our presence because, like you said, people feel that and it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable.
Yeah. When I get to do what I'm doing, which is help people build their businesses, there are certain niches and industries and courses that people are creating where I feel like I've won the lottery because I get to see the insides of their business. And so, sort of a byproduct of that is I get to learn your methodology and your framework without you teaching it to me necessarily, because I'm helping you craft it. So having someone like yourself come in where I am a speaker, I do a lot of speaking, I have a podcast, I'm on podcasts, on stages. This was like winning the jackpot, like lotto won, because it's like, okay, cool. I get to kind of learn some insights and some little behind the scenes things about a niche or an industry that could be very beneficial and very, very helpful for me, but I'm also interested in it. So for the listener who hasn't gone through your program or isn't working with you yet, what are some of the different like angles or elements when it comes to commanding the stage and voice? Like, is it all presence? Is there posture? Is it tonality? Is it volume? Is pausing important? Like, can you just walk us through maybe 3 or 5 key things that someone that gets on stage, the whole crowd is just so engaged? Like, what is that?
Okay, so my number one thing, and I think this is why people are drawn to work with me, is I'm all about connection.
Yeah.
When you get onto any stage, and when I say stage, it's like anytime that you're speaking to your audience, it doesn't matter if it's live or virtual or podcast, whatever, is the connection that you create with the audience. And when you make it about them and not yourself, then that's where you're going to start to notice that things happen fast. This can also be in launches as well. It's the engagement that you create with them. When you make them feel like you are just speaking to them, they feel seen and heard. And that's where you create that trust. And they see you as an authority.
Yeah.
So connection to your audience is always going to be my number one.
Which is
When we
exactly
talk,
why we don't want to say things like, hey guys, and use
Yeah.
plural when we get onto Instagram stories. Really, it's the tiniest little
The
psychological
tiniest little
subconscious thing
things.
where now I don't feel like you're talking to me. I feel like you're talking to everybody, and I suddenly don't feel special. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll give you a hot tip. There's two things. Oh, two things I want to say. One hot tip is that a lot of people talk about, avatar. When you're looking to speak to a specific person, have a specific person that you have in mind. Like, who is your ideal client? But then literally put an actual person who would be your ideal client that you know really well as that person that you visualize, or if you're auditory like me, that you feel like you can hear them responding to what you say. So it sounds like a conversation. If you don't yet have an ideal client, then speak to your best friend, because it just hits on a different note when you do that.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely, make sure that you're actually like speaking to a person, and then it will actually feel like you're speaking to a person.
It's also less scary when you do that, when you're
Yeah. Yeah.
visualizing someone on the other end of the phone. Because when we are talking about something like Instagram stories and you're just in your house by yourself, sometimes we feel dumb. Like I've heard that from so many clients. Like, I feel dumb. I feel like an idiot. I feel so stupid. I feel so silly because I'm just yapping into my phone. But when you can imagine that you're actually on FaceTime with that specific person, then it doesn't feel so weird. I love that. I
Yeah.
cut you off though. Okay, connection. Sorry.
Oh, I know. And the thought just went, but that's okay. It'll probably come back to me. So, another tip. So, we're talking about presence. Presence is both vocal and physical. When we talk about communication, most people think about the words that you speak as
Mm.
being the most important. And they are, of course, like your messaging is key. But then it's how you say the messaging that's what really converts, because 93% of communication is your vocal and your physical. So it is things like your tonality, the pace at which you speak, the ability to pause, melody in your voice. All of these things either attract or repel us away. So I would highly recommend understanding your vocal toolkit, because you can use that to convey authority. You can use that to evoke emotion. And in fact, there's two different layers of communication that you're doing when you're speaking. This becomes really powerful when you're in a launch, because there's a logical side of what you say. Those are the words that you've crafted in your messaging. But underneath the surface is the subtext. It's what you want your audience to feel throughout. And as you speak, it is a journey that you're taking your audience on, where they're feeling multiple different layers of emotions, and you get to do that. So by the end, they're with you and they're feeling what you want them to feel, and therefore they take action, because people buy from emotion. They need the logic, but ultimately, when they make a decision, it's from emotion.
So good. I don't want to give too much away. We're going to have you back on to do like a full mind blown emoji episode, but I want to shift gears if you're okay with that for a second. So
Absolutely.
you've mentioned launching a couple times, and I know we had the amazing experience to launch together. So I want to talk a little bit about your launch, because when we started working together, you didn't have a massive Instagram following. You didn't have a massive email list. And yet you were able to have a massive launch. I mean, you had a $20,000 launch, which was pretty incredible. Talk me through for a second. First, did you have any limiting beliefs or stories around maybe not being able to be successful without a big following, a big email list, lots of ads, anything like that?
No, and I think that's what made the difference, is because in the past I did have limiting beliefs, and I allowed beliefs to get in the way, and also emotions to get in the way, which can be, I think, detrimental in a launch. Is that when you make a decision and take action and remove emotions from the equation, that's when I saw success. In terms of financial success, I had successes in other different ways with other different launches. But specifically with this launch, it was from idea to launch and closing the cart, essentially, probably a 6-week period. And once I had that idea, 2 days later, I was on Instagram and I was pitching it. And because I had such a clear intention in my head and I was able to express it, people were responding right away. And
Yeah.
I was getting people to say yes without a sales page, even without a checkout page ready to go. People were saying, I want to work with you just because um, I think w- took action on something without letting my beliefs get in the way.
Yeah. And messy action, like just throwing it out
Messy.
there, not
Yeah.
having the sales page, not feeling, quote unquote ready, just sort of putting it out there. And I'm guessing, I don't want to make an assumption, but there's probably a lot of relief on the other side of that when you do have the evidence that someone wants it, they're asking to pay you, and then you go and start to build it, right? Then there's like this
Yeah.
excitement, this fire, this momentum that happens, because at that point you kind of have to, it's like, all right, well, now I'm going to go do this, but I'm also going to do this with support from these people that are saying yes, with excitement from these people that are saying yes. Walk me through for a second what it looked like before you walked through our sort of organic social media launch process, and then after. Like, what was the big difference? What had you kind of done before? How did you show up differently on Instagram after?
Okay, so I don't want to give away my age like I'm old or anything, but I am in my mid 40s. So like my generation with Instagram, where some of us are still just getting familiar with it and we feel like we're a little bit behind from those that are a bit younger. So there were things that I didn't really understand about it. And also was almost like afraid of it because it just seemed so foreign to what I was used to. When you grow up in a world that doesn't have it, and then all of a sudden you have it, is so different to like my kids that grew up with iPads and Instagram and all these things. So it was definitely a learning curve. I definitely feel more safe with like things like podcasting and
Yeah.
in-person communication and that sort of thing. So it was a learning curve. And what I love about you, Jess, is you made it seem so easy and that it was like having a conversation. And when I thought about it differently and I treated it more like an opportunity to have close and personal conversations with people, that's where it changed. And I thought, oh, for this launch, I actually can utilize this as my secret weapon to reach out and just have conversations with people. And it worked.
Yeah. There's the soundbite. I mean, it really is when we can shift and look at it. It's kind of like when people say, instead of I have to do something, I get to do something. The words have come out of my mouth over the last 12 years I've been doing this. They have definitely come out of my mouth multiple times, like, I have to post, as if it's this inconvenience or this heavy to-do list item. But when you can make that small little shift of like, I get to post, I get to show up and say whatever I want to say, I get to create. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere in the world, some one person out there is going to have a transformation, a shift, an excitement, a motivation, an inspiration. Like, how freaking cool is that? And
Mm.
what a tiny little shift for you to make, to have then such a big financial result. And that was just that one first launch.
Yeah. And just sidebar on that also for your listeners is that also evolved from wanting to pivot, but not yet in alignment with what that pivot was. And so you can tell when your body is resisting it and there isn't that click with you and the audience, like you're not communicating on the same level. That subtle shift of going, oh, wait, if I redirect my skill set towards speaking on stages, now I'm actually giving a specific audience what they want
Yeah.
and it caters to my skill set. So it's I guess what I'm saying here is like it is a journey in business and sometimes that first idea may not be the idea, but it's taking you one step closer to that idea that will be right for you and that will be a home run for your audience.
Louder for the people in the back. I mean, I say it all the time. It's the Steve Jobs quote, really, because what you're learning in that first thing that might not be the idea, you're learning the skills and the tools and the resistance and the resilience. Like, you're learning all these things that you then get to plug in later when you do your little pirouette. We say pirouette instead of a
Yeah,
pivot, but it's
I
this,
love it.
this tiny little pirouette. It wasn't like a massive
Yeah.
pivot, but the clarity comes from the contrast of doing. right?
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
We're almost at time, which is crazy because I'm like, I want to just keep talking to you. We have to have you back on if you'd be open to that.
Absolutely.
What would you tell someone who is on the fence about joining Empower?
Why wait? Because if you want to create a business for yourself, have that financial freedom, and you know that this is something that you want to do, what you want is on the other side of saying yes to working with Jess inside of this amazing program, because it gives you exactly everything you want to, what you need to succeed in a digital business. And you will pay back that investment so fast and then some. So the only thing that's holding you back from doing that is you. Jess and her team of coaches will give you everything else. So if you really are ready to take that next step and be that higher version of yourself, then I highly recommend saying yes.
Katherine, we love you. Where can people find you? How can they find out about what you got coming up? How can they work with you?
Come say hi on Instagram. I'm at Katherine_Beck_. I have a wait list open for Command the Stage. We're going to be doing another launch in April,
Yay.
opening up the doors to our first official cohort after our founding members. So I'd love for you to say hi, and I'll see you over there.
I'm so excited and very happy to hear that you have a wait list, and next class is kicking off in April. This is for anyone who wants to get better at speaking and commanding the stage, whether it's virtual or in person, right?
Yeah. And in fact, I work with people also on launches one-on-one. And so speaking is, in the online space, is anything from speaking on Instagram to creating content on YouTube to podcasting, giving great interviews to your launches, as well as speaking on stages.
I love it. Well, before we go, I'm going to ask you the one most important question that we ask on all podcasts. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So I named the company Digital Business Evolution because I believe we're always evolving and growing. And as we grow and evolve, so does our business. What is your next business or personal evolution?
Oh, gosh, that's a big question. It really is now focusing on this one program and stepping up as the guide and the leader for those that are ready to step into that next bigger version of themselves and share it on bigger stages. So
I love it.
it's that evolution of being that next version of myself.
I love it. Well, I'm so grateful that I get to be along the ride for this journey, and I get to watch everything that you do and witness it and get the experience of getting to work with you and the magic that you bring to the world. So Katherine, thank you so much for everything that you do. I'm so grateful for you. Friends, make sure you head over and take a snapshot, screenshot, share it out on social media at Katherine_Beck_. Tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Let us know what some of your takeaways were, or just DM me and let me know if you want Katherine back on the show, because I think she should come back on and do a full-blown voice, a find your voice episode. I would love if we did that. So let me know if you're interested in that. And as always, friends, cheers to your evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.